Hi there, welcome back to the Oil and Gas Exports course. I am Rizwan Khazi. In this video, I am going to talk about what is a dip test and how does it work in oil and gas. So make sure to watch until the end. If you haven't yet joined my full course on oil and gas exports, there is a link in the description. Click it to access the complete course. With that said, let me take you back to a real deal. What happened not too long ago. In 2023, a seller mandate based in Houston, Texas was approached by a buyer mandate from Singapore. The buyer was requesting a dip and pay deal for Jet A1 fuel stored at a terminal in Rotterdam. But the seller didn't just jump into the transaction. He made it crystal clear. No dip test without verified tank storage receipt and valid proof of funds. Why? Because a dip test isn't just dipping a stick into a tank. It's a formally legally binding agreement that confirms the quality, quantity and exact specification of the petroleum product before any payment is made. In that case, the buyer turned out to be genuine. He presented verified financials and a valid TSR. Now what happened? The deal moved forward, the test succeeded, and within 48 hours, payment was made and title transferred. But not every story ends that way. You have to understand this. That's why you must understand exactly how dip test works. So in this video, I will walk you through what is a dip test really is, how it's conducted step by step, what documents are required before the test, and most importantly, why it protects both the buyer and the seller. This is a course video and there are a few more couple of videos regarding this dip test and the full procedures. If you haven't joined my full course, you have to join it now to get all the details. So now let's get started. Actually, what is dip test really is and how it's conducted step by step, what documents are required before the test, and most importantly, why it protects both the buyer and the seller. Let's get started. What is actually a dip test? A dip test means a physical and technical verification process conducted at the storage terminal before product payment and transfer in an FOB free on board oil and gas transaction. This you have to understand. So what dip test means? It is a physical and technical verification process conducted at the storage terminal, right? Before payment. How a seller can do the dip test without the payment? The seller has not, the buyer has not done the payment, but the buyer is asking for the dip test. So there is a procedure for that. The same procedure you will learn in my full course. What comes first, and for conducting of a dip test, what are the things need to be done by the buyer? So what documentation needs to be done by the buyer, or what type of actions need to be taken by the buyer for conducting of that kind of dip test? That you have to understand, and that you will get all those details in my course. So what this dip test does, it allows the buyer or their appointed inspection company like SGS to verify the volume of petroleum product available. So when we conduct the dip test, what happened? It will allow the buyer to understand how much petroleum is available, or how much what quantity of petroleum is available in the tanks of the seller. That the buyer will understand. Next, it also confirms the quality specifications of the product, like how much is the sulfur content in the fuel, what is the density of the fuel, API, etc. Lot of things are there. So after conducting of this dip test, buyer will come to know the entire specifications of the product. If successful payment is made immediately after verification, then the deal is done. Now, before that, the dip test need to be conducted prior to the payment. That's important. Next, coming to the, as I said, quality and specifications of the product. Next, one more thing happens. It matches the product with what stated in the commercial and invoice and product passport. Now you can see there is a another passport that will be named as the product passport, that you'll understand in my full course. So the things that are stated in the ICPO, the specifications given by the buyer to pick up the product, by dip test, the buyer is going to understand the same matches, the given specification to the seller is matching with the actual product or not. The buyer will come to know regarding that. Next, it also ensures that the fuel is genuinely in storage, not on just paper. Lot of fake sellers, they will show fuel on the paper, but only after this dip test, buyer is going to know actual product is in the storage facility. Now coming to the point, I get lot of fake buyers. They will always ask that we want to do the dip test before the payments, before showing any document, before proving any buyer's credibility. They ask like that, but dip test is not free. There is a complete mechanism for the dip test. It can't be done on just if a buyer mandate or someone is calling and telling that okay, you do the dip test for us. It's not possible like that. The seller have to know the financial capacity of the buyer before conducting of the dip test. How it is done, what is the process for that, what is the procedure for that, I have stated all those things in my full course. You can go through that. Now, once the test is successful, the buyer is required to immediately release payment followed by product injections into the buyer's tank. Now what happened? The buyer has conducted this dip test in the seller tanks, and now after the payment, the product is being injected into the buyer's tank. This is the process. In the full oil and gas export masterclass, I will walk you through complete procedure of dip test starting from starting till end of the deal. Next, what are the red flags, signals of buyers before dip test? I'm going to walk you through all those things. If you want to do good business, then you have to learn all these things. Let's jump into the next video.